Gather, veterans. It's time to join the fight. The long war begins.
This is The Long War. I'm Robbie B, and joining me once again are my partners in crime, Kenny Boucher and Stephen Four. What's up, guys?
Yo, dog, great to be here.
Yo, what's happening, everybody? You know it's icy when Robbie B and I are in the room.
Turns out we're not sold separately, so who knew? We're actually the same person, practically. I'll be honest.
I can't tell you guys apart.
Nah, not at all. So the title of tonight's episode is Matt Ward.
Matt Ward for president.
For president. GG. Yeah, so it's an exciting, very exciting prospect, I think, for Games Workshop. And also we have the new Tyranid FAQ, which I'm sure Juice has a lot to chime in about.
Yeah, I'm pumped.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a good one. And this weekend is Gen Con weekend too. So there's going to be all sorts of news coming out, filtering out through the weekend and into next week. We've already got a pretty stacked tabletop market watch for this week. I feel like, especially with all these like crazy GW's return to social media with all their rumors and such. So
is Gen Con going to have Forge World there again?
Yeah, they're there.
I mean, I remember last year being like a mecca of just Forge World purchase.
A lot of people went there just to buy Forge World. I feel like, they're going to be a Dragon Con this year too, I heard.
Really? That's the one in Atlanta, right? Yeah,
the one in Atlanta over Labor Day weekld.
I've also heard talking about people showing up to events. I've heard GW is showing up to the LVO this year.
I think they will be there in some sort of capacity. I'm not sure what.
From what I understand, they're going to be talking about the drop of the Age of Sigmar, not necessarily specifically for 40K, but I thought that was pretty cool. You know, we talk about it all the time. Is GW listening? And guys, I think they want to get engaged. And, you know, we talked about it tonight on the webcast. But, wait a second. I think my phone is ringing. It's Nottingham. They're calling the bat phone.
They are. You're right, and that is empirical proof. Like because we, like us entities in the 40K community, we're not the Gen Cons and the Dragon Cons. So for GW to come out and recognize like Frontline Gaming, ITC as something that they, are okay with, say, like that they're down with this. These are people who've come up with a living FAQ based on crowdsourcing, a democratic system of, questions. Like this is like GW always dreamed that they could do. And they're trying to do it on Facebook, but it's, pretty haphazard. It's a billion comics they have to filter through, decide which ones to address, instead of competitive individuals posing the questions that are voted on. They're just saying, ask us any questions. So it makes sense that they're okay to get behind this, and it's so rewarding to see them get behind this, even if it's in a promotional capacity. At first, that's toe in the water. You know what I mean? Does that mean they're going to come back and be an Adepticon?
Wow.
Like actually an Adepticon, not just Forge World booth selling product, but like official?
That would be gangster. If they can get to Adepticon, they're back at it. GW has done a lot. They're giving us FAQs every week. They're whatever. I would really be surprised if within by the end of next year, if they don't have, the community leaders involved in some capacity, it would surprise me. I would say it would surprise me more that they wouldn't get individuals involved versus waiting on some people getting the phone call as if they are involved.
All right, so moving along, let's hit up the tabletop marketplace for tonight. So lots of stuff coming out. Some video game stuff. We got new releases, of course. The Beast Claw Raiders, the Ogres for the Age of Sigmar coming out.
Is that a name change? Is that a faction name change again?
Yeah, they're so they did Oruks or Oruks for orcs, and now they've got Ogres.
And I imagine it's probably pronounced no different to them, like being British. I bet it's still like orcs, ogres. Like,
I don't know. We should ask one of those official British people. If you're an official British person and would like to comment,
John Mayer, I need to know, dog. Let us know. How do you pronounce it?
So yeah, I get why they're doing it because they can't copyright and such. But it's. I think everybody's going to call it, and we still call Sisters of Battle, right?
We still call IG.
Yeah,
Very rarely do I ever bang down Astra Militarum. You know, if I'm feeling fancy, if I'm referring to Pask in like third person, then I'm like, yo, that baller from.
And they're not dumb about it. They keep their real name. I mean, it's like Codex Astra Militarum, or it's Astra Militarum Codex Imperial Guard. You know, it's like, so they still have Guardsmen, Sisters of Battle. Like they keep the thing we know and love in there, but they're trying to copyright some element of it.
Well, I get it. It's business. You know, everybody's got to get theirs. That's all good. So
it literally doesn't affect me in my ability to play the game at all.
No, seriously, it's like, oh, that works. Got it. All right. So moving along. New releases, of course, the whole Death Watch teaser. You know, there's the Death Watch Death Mask box set coming out. There's a codex coming out. There's a dice set coming out. There's a limited edition codex coming out. There's data cards coming out. Where's my Age of Sigmar data cards? Nope. Anyways, move along. So that's cool product. And if you add up the retail value of the Death Mask box that's coming out for Death Watch, that's $450 for $150.
How much are they? How much is MSRP?
Well, MSRP on the box is only $150, but the value inside the box, depending on what you value, the coded little mini rulebook at, is roughly $450.
And that's because it's all a bunch of clan packs and stuff.
With clan packs, some sprues, and then apparently this is the only way to get the Death Watch troop box, which I guess is going to be modeled after like the Stern Guard, right? Because the Stern Guard actually have the old Death Watch rules from 3rd edition. They incorporated those into the current codex. So I guess they're most closely resembled because it comes with a box of Stern Guard and a box of Vanguard, or a box of Death Watch and a box of Vanguard. So that leads me to believe that they're kind of on that track of the Stern Guard's going to be kind of the same. They're going to be kind of sharing the same rules like we saw in the past, I feel like.
When is this box going to be available for purchase?
Pre-orders on this Saturday, the 6th, I guess. So supposedly they're limited. GW is actually telling stores they're limited. What that means, I don't know. Normally they don't say that. And they're saying this is the only way to get that box set, the new Death Watch troop box, early, is in this kind of like army box.
Now, is the entire Death Watch game, are they saying, is going to be limited, or just this version?
Just this box.
Okay, cool.
Which apparently is also a game. ? It's all very vague right now.
Yeah, well, GW, this is your chance. This is your chance to bring back this limited edition stuff that you don't put out more. You've got special edition books that, like, come on. So you've botched this in the past. So we're starting the new slate, brand new. I'm not gonna dwell on all that in the past. So
that was then. This is now.
This is the.
It's just us in the room.
That's it. Nobody else. GW. I won't hold this over your head, but don't fuck this up.
Yeah, but me and your mom.
What's the name? What's the official name of the product?
It's called Death Mask, like with a Q. Kind of like all Harlequin.
Oh, like the mask. Yeah.
Right, because it does come with Harlequins in it. So it's interesting, like the whole like what's coming in, and of course Eldrad's in there too. Which this might be the only way to get that Eldrad, that sweet ass two sprue Eldrad model. So this is going to be a dope box. Like you're going to want this thing not just for value, but also just for the freshness of there's stuff in here that you can't get, and we don't know when you'll be able to get it. You know what I mean? So they got us. They know what's up. The chip right now. Mike Haspel's probably listening, and he's like, he's like throwing them out.
I remember the first time I smoked crack.
Oh man!
I remember the last time I smoked crack.
That was earlier today. 5 guys. Yeah. We're having them Cajun fries. Delicious. Anyways, so that's some cool stuff, and we're starting to see all sorts of video game releases. Haspel sent me this. By the way, thanks Haspel. He sent me this like cheat sheet of stuff to talk about tonight. Battlefleet Gothic Armada got tiered ranked play, basically. That came out last week. You can check that out on their site. There's a press release up for that. So that looks pretty neat. Battle Scribe 2.0 is coming out soon. Apparently it's going to be some sort of subscription service. It's going to be $4 or $5 kind of type deal. That's looking fresh because they're really they kind of dropped the ball. Like they were the shiznit, and then all of a sudden it's like apps came out.
Battle Scribe? You mean Army Builder?
No, I think it's Battle Scribe.
Or actual Battle Scribe, the app.
Yeah.
If I'm just saying, if I'm pretty sure it is, because I heard somebody else talking about it, like that you can do that now with Battle Scribe, that you can upgrade and kind of pay, kind of like how you can do with Pandora or something. I am all about giving Battle Scribe money for whatever I can for the service that they provide me for free for years.
True story.
I mean,
right?
I don't know. I actually don't know much about that news story, so I will be looking into it definitely as soon as I get off here. The Fate Unbound Warzone Fenders Part 8, we talked about that on the webcast. That's the little, they kind of do like they broke up the book, and this is the final installment, Part 8. They were supposed to be once a month, but we saw 2 come out in July, and now we're seeing the last one come out now. So does that mean that we're going to see, some Warzone Fender stuff sooner? Or at all, this year? Who knows? But they're wrapping up the series a little.
Kind of like what Haskell was talking about last week, where you're saying they're moving it along.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a release date they're trying to meet.
Something's there's some dominoes falling into place. Somewhere Zinchi's going all as planned, I feel like. So that's cool. Battlefleet Gothic Leviathan. That's the one. That's the Battlefleet Gothic game where you're playing kind of like a version of the tabletop with the dice rolling and things like that. Now it's got an update where you can save the battle several times instead of having to if you have to put it down, you got to start the whole battle over, which nobody wants to start a whole game of tabletop war or anything over again, right?
No.
Not once you get started. So that's really cool. That's a cool feature for them. And the big news, I feel like the biggest news on the video game front was the developer Slytherin, the makers of 40K Armageddon, which we saw come out, I think, last November, I want to say. And they've done all sorts of games like Heroes in Normandy. They are making the 40K adaptation of Sanctus Reach, which is Orcs versus Space Wolves, which should be pretty good, I would imagine. And apparently that's just going to drop in November. They're just like, hey, by the way, it's coming.
It's happening.
Yeah, we're already in alpha. We're looking for beta testers. So go sign up now for a beta test. But I mean,
once you go alpha, you never go back.
Yeah, that's a pretty quick time frame. I mean,
yeah.
We got this video game. It's going to be out in November. Okay.
I mean, it's kind of like, I love it. No better time to get models put together and painted than right before a tournament.
Yeah.
It's like, let's get shit done. We actually are just going to go ahead and set the release date before we're ready, just to make sure we're on our shit.
Yep, exactly. I mean, I work better with a deadline.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. So that's kind of the big stuff. I mean, we'll see all sorts of news coming out at Gen Con. I'm sure we'll see some new X-Wing ships, and Malifaux's got a lot going on over there with they got some terrain and all sorts of crazy stuff from reboots and exclusives from the show. Malifaux's always keeping it fresh at Gen Con every year. I'm sure we'll see some stuff from Forge World. Man, I don't even know. There's just so much to cover right now. It's kind of crazy. Did I mention Ogres?
Ogres.
Oh yeah, what you said.
I feel like I can help with the Ogre situation here.
Hodor.
Yeah.
It rhymes Ogre. It rhymes with Hodor.
Yeah. I heard, though, that ogres are going to be your new Age of Sigmar army.
Yeah, it's true. I'm going to build an 11 model army because it's actually super cheap to do. You just buy the army box, and then you buy one extra Stonehorn, and that's... If you already have the books, you're less than $300 in, and you still have models left over that you can add in, or you could trade off to get some other stuff. So
yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, it's not a secret. Robbie B and I played Age of Sigmar, and I'm excited about it. It's got my hobby juices going. I've got some Skaven in the works. I used to have a big Skaven army that I played for just under 2 years. Through 7th and beginning of 8th edition. And it's actually them putting point costs back to things. The books and everything else seem pretty manageable to understand, read, and you can't get any cheaper.
300-page book for what, $33 retail?
Without a discount?
I'm how do you... I mean, when you got the army box, the Ogre box is coming out, it's $215 retail. You get $305 retail in miniatures in it. And that's assuming you don't get a discount. You all know, if you're a veteran of Long War, You can get that sweet discount from Dice Head Games. You know, you get your extra 6% off. I think it ends up being like 25% off total. I mean, right there, you're like, it's so good. Like, it's just, they make it so easy. You can get the starter for Age of Sigmar that comes with 2 different armies that are almost 1,000 points each. Once you just add in a few things. Like,
and Rob, when we played at 1,000 points.
Right.
And that was fun to me.
It was a fun game.
You know, and it was tactical. Things happen left and right. So you don't have to just jump in thinking you have to play 3,000 points of Eldar. Or
I wouldn't recommend it, because if you try out Age of Sigmar, you really have to keep an open mind. You just kind of have to shed the mortal coil of all 40K and all fantasy you ever played, because if you don't, you're going to be trying to make some false connections rules-wise that are really going to kind of poison the well for you, I feel like. Like, you just have to let all preconceived notions go and just kind of actually read for comprehension into the rules.
I like that. I mean, obviously, you guys just did that game. I think it's on YouTube this week.
Next week.
YouTube next week. First Age of Sigmar battle report. It was amazing to sit here and edit it. Not knowing much about the game system and how it plays, but watching you guys, you know, devour the rules and play it on the tabletop and kind of learn as you go. I found it to be very digestible, pretty easy to understand, you know?
Yeah, I want to say this, like, and this is just truthfully speaking, when we do battle reports, when we play 40K and everything else, sometimes you take for granted some small things, you know? Sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I've been playing for X amount of years, so this and this. The cool thing about what I loved about Age of Sigmar is because I did exactly what Robbie B said, is like, look, let's get rid of all preconceived notions of any game system that I played before. And literally, here's the book, read it for a little bit, get to know some rules, get to know some stuff. And literally, that's how I played the game. And let me tell you, it was actually really liberating. Like, it was really cool. It was easy to understand. I felt like the rules, we had a couple rules debates, or not even debates, just questions. And they were actually pretty easy to find. There wasn't like a quick sheet.
You only had to flip through like 4 pages to figure it out.
Yeah, you know, versus, hey, what rule set are we playing? What FAQ? This says in the rule book, but
it's like the Dewey Decimal System in the 40K handbook to figure things out.
Yeah, so like, I can't remember what veteran said it last week, but literally playing 40K is harder than the law degree that the bar exam that they just passed. You know,
that was good old Mike C.
Yeah, so like Mike Carr, absolutely. So playing this was like, wow, this was painless. You know, not saying 40K is painful, but like, it is still just, it was actually really fun. You know, I won't dive off the Age of Sigmar bandwagon and talk for endlessly about it for a while. So veterans, you know, if I'm talking positive about something, it's something worthwhile to be talking about.
I do want to, you know, first of all, I want to talk a little bit more because there wasn't enough Age of Sigmar last week, I feel like.
Making up for it.
So,
and we didn't have as many cat meows last week.
You know, well, it is what it is. They're back this week. There's kind of this thing, like, people are like, oh man, I really like block. You know, I really like mass infantry. I like these blocks, like things smashing into each other. That still happens in Age of Sigmar. Like, you just kind of line up differently, and it really comes down to the activation of which model or which units you activate to engage in combat, which can affect other units around them and actually open up holes for you to pile in with, like, say, a Great Unclean One behind.
It's actually more detailed than you think, than a lot of people think it is. Like, when you're playing like a rank and file game, a formation game, it's very abstract. It's very like, this is what my unit does. This is how it hits you. This is how my unit attacks. In 40K already, he's been making a move toward a little bit more realism. Like, for example, using shooting as an example. You know how now we pull casualties that are closest to the firer out of
actual line of sight models. Yeah.
It used to be like, literally I pick. Now you're like, no, like, if you know, the first guys that get hit by bullets are the guys who die. So that was a move toward somewhat realism. Age of Sigmar plays that way, and it's a predominantly close combat game, obviously. And when they're in combat, like, the combat zones are so much more strict. Piling in is so much more strict. Activation, you can get robbed. And for, you know, in most of those games, it's a lot of you know, I come in, these are my initiatives, don't worry, like, these guys can still attack. This game is very detailed while being easy to understand of how these guys are swinging. Well, my guy's here, he kills, now this guy can't.
Yeah, and like to put this in 40K terms, like, and Rob B, I'm so glad you brought it up because that was actually one of my favorite parts of the game mechanic when we played each other was literally the chess match of what do I want to activate, because initiative. So for everybody to know, initiative steps aren't there in Age of Sigmar.
Initiative is whose turn it is, gets to pick the guy to attack with first.
Right. So like, let's put it in perspective. You have a Wraith Knight and a squad of Warp Spiders. They are now in combat with a Thunderwolf unit and a Bear Lord and a squad of Scouts. There is no, and I am the owning player of the Space Marines, or excuse me, the Space Wolves. It is literally up to me to say what unit swings first. I can go with my Bear Lord at initiative, would be initiative 1. It doesn't matter. My Bear Lord can go up first. But guess what? Because how he's positioned, he could go first and he could kill those Warp Spiders, right? But if I don't use my Thunderwolf right now to go before, because I know Robbie B is going to activate that Wraith Knight off gates, so, and he's going to wipe out my, Thunderwolf. So he's literally tipping my hand one way or the other what I'm going to go. So like in the game that we played, it was like, damn, I don't actually want to go with my, my ogre or my orc guy on a steed, my main warlord. I really wanted to go with this unit that I had just charging in, who had fresh attacks, who could actually scoop up a 20-man blob almost, before he could strain out and get a couple kill points, whatever else.
Sacrifice the next guy.
Yes.
Right.
And what was crazy about that is I couldn't see discernibly what, who gets to pick first, because it's alternating. That picking first, then it alternates. I couldn't honestly, while watching, find a tactical advantage that determines if is it better to pick first or not in many situations, because it seemed like the decision making process was so complex in some situations, where it was like, damn, I almost want to just let you fucking go first, so I can react.
Yeah, I can that. Because I can even decide, because guess what? You whiff, don't kill me, don't something. Whoop, I can just leave that unit for the very end. Now I'm going to get one up on you because I'm going to wipe out one of your entire unit.
Or sometimes you don't want to attack because if you kill something bigger behind it
can fit through.
They can fit through now and can slide up.
And something that you guys, when I played the game, I'm not giving anything away here. This is how the game works. You go, you play. It's not you go, I go. It's top of turn, bottom of turn, and then you roll off to see who gets the next top of the turn, right?
Right. So the person at the bottom could be the first at the top.
Where it was like people get to go back to back, and it's like this breaks the game, and then it didn't. It did not fucking break the game. As a matter of fact, it had almost no, as I watched the game and edited it and got very intimate with it, had almost no discernible impact on the combats because of the activation sequence that followed it of you still go, I go, you go, I go within the combats. So the back-to-back turn stealing and shit like that had almost no predominant impact of the course of the game. I found that to be a very refreshing balance. It wasn't OP at all.
Well, it may in larger point games because it would allow you to bring more stuff up to the battle line.
Yeah, it can be, but I would like.
Let me put it this way: without a bunch of scat bikes shooting you, that a bunch of
not like OP.
So that's
just gives you more options.
Yeah, and I would say I'd like to make 2 points. It's yes, it was very intimidating when one person has the ability to kind of go turns back to back, but as you'll see, what goes around comes around. Mm-hmm. Whatever happens at the beginning of the game could change at the very end of the game. Also, from what I can tell so far, and Rob, you can contest if I'm wrong here. Okay. But there isn't what Kenny said. There isn't a shooting phase. Now, 40K is so strong in the shooting phase, the psychic phase, and the assault phase that literally any one of those, if an army had 2 back-to-back turns, they overpower somebody so much that there's no way that they can go. But from what I can tell now, a lot of the spells are offensive. Are defensive buffs.
Right.
To buff your own units up. There aren't as many offensive spells, and shy of some artillery pieces, shy of this and this, there really isn't that many guns.
There isn't. There can be.
Some armies can have some, and it's not
everything has so many wounds, has so much power behind it. It's not like it would break 40K if an Eldar army got to go back to backs. Think about a Tau army that shoots you. You deep strike in, it shoots you. And your turn. Then it's their turn. They shoot you. Then you assault them, and they shoot you again. Like that breaks armies. And now if every army is essentially like, I get to shoot you again.
A 50-50 chance I get to go bottom a turn and then top a turn.
Mm-hmm.
And
no
so,
way.
like, I found it at first. I was like, this is a broken mechanic. And then I was like, you know what? In this game system is not it's a cool mechanic, especially now that the General's Handbook is out. And there is a degree of balance being experienced by Age of Sigmar armies now with the point system. It is totally a cool thing, and I loved it. And I found it to be very realistic because that's not how battles are fought. Like you go, I go. So in essence, they were able to take a turn-based strategy game, like tabletop game, a turn-based strategy game, and make the combats feel more realistic and the ebbs and flow of the game feel more realistic. I found that to be amazing.
And to be honest, that's what we've talked about. I can't remember if it was we've done so many things every Wednesday night, but I can't remember if it was in the webcast earlier tonight in the pregame or already. But GW has definitely tries to make the delineation between fantasy world and the 40K world, right?
Yes.
And we have seen where they've made kind of a few more similarities than we would have seen before with making fantasy or Age of Sigmar a skirmish-based game. You know, giving it that 40K feel because it was almost kind of dying. But this, my friends, if you ever think that they're trying to make fantasy and 40K the same, my God, if they ever brought this mechanic into it, like I would love, this initiative step back and forth, but they would never in the history of ever do this 50% chance, you get to have bottom of turn and top of turn. That mechanic wouldn't work. It's not going to work. So like that is the specialness, the coolness that is Age of Sigmar.
Agreed.
Yep. No, it's a good game. So I definitely think everybody, if you have a chance, try to check the game out.
We obviously got hype on it because everyone's been telling us it's cool, all of our friends, but this is the first time we, as a company, as a crew, got to actually experience the cool awe and wonder that is Age of Sigmar.
All right, now that we've done that, Robbie B, does that cover the AOS?
Yeah. So we can move right on to what's new in FAQ.
Made Rob happy to get his AOS fill.
Well, I just want to make sure we got enough AOS going around because last week there was not as much AOS and Cats and Brittany.
Yep. Okay, guys. So the FAQ this week.
I couldn't be more excited because I know anyone who watches the show knows Tyranids are near and dear to Juice. They are his functional, quote unquote, shit. They're his shit.
Literally his shit. So my shit. So I'm sorry, I was reading at the same time. So yes, they are. I want you guys to know I took had no expectation for this. I knew it was going to be garbage, but before we dive into it, we kind of run it over and talk about it. It is 6 pages. Okay. They actually did pull up a lot. A lot of the stuff is useless in my opinion, but I give this a solid B-. I would say this is one of the not better FAQs that they have put out, but this is above average. It's fine. They clarified some stuff. They did give some yeses, okay, that we've been talking about. And I'm not saying that just because it's my army. I'm just saying there's literally yes in the answers. Yes, you can do some things. So
like a positive, permission was granted to do something in a permissive rule set.
Yep. Absolutely. So, okay. So some of these I don't even really care to talk too much about. One question, and this is now I'm going to shoot you straight, GW. I know this is not a FAQ. This is not a frequently asked question. How many psychic powers does a Malin Scepter get? Okay. First off, that is.
I feel like that was easy.
Yeah. So it gets 3. Psychic Overlord. It grants the powers they go into it. Blah blah blah. That is not a frequently asked question. That model is garbage. So
nobody. One guy asked this question.
Yeah. So again, we were back on the stage of you can just say, "Hey, these are just questions." You can get rid of frequently now.
Answered questions. AQ.
Yes. Here are some answers to some questions. How many psychic powers does a Zoanthrope brood get? It goes on to say it knows 3 if there's no Neurothrope in it. If there is, you get a 4th power. But I actually don't like the mechanics behind the brood telepathy. Brotherhood of Psychers, it kind of bothers me. And if they would have FAQ'd or errated that, this unit would be playable, but they didn't, and it's fine. Can a Spore Sis arrive via outflank? No, it cannot. Therefore, so it cannot move on from the board edge as described on moving on from reserves. There's that. And regarding to formations like Endless Swarm, Skyblight, Swarm, Spore Fields, blah, 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 with units placing in ongoing reserves. When they deep strike, and they use deep strike, by extension, flyers and flying monstrous creatures that they leave combat airspace. The gist of that is saying, no, they arrive from reserves as described on from moving on reserve. So you leave the board, you come on the board as you left it. Do all guns of a Tyrannosaurus shoot at one target, or are they all supposed to be played as fixed arcs? So I want you guys to know.
And Tyrannosaurus is the super drop pod with the
that is
filing around it, right?
Yes,
but it's a monstrous creature.
It is a monstrous creature, and now I actually didn't read this. I haven't read this answer yet. I don't know how I missed over this. This was something that was big when it came out, that some rules committees and non-GW related to put in their FAQ wanted to say it's a monstrous creature. It doesn't matter that the 5 weapons are all pointing in different directions. It just shoots them all in one. But that was overruled. The committee that I'm referring to decided by a very small margin that no, it can only shoot at a target, the gun that is in front of it, right? So it's like, wow, that doesn't make any sense. But so let's see what GW says. You should check line of sight from the barrel of each weapon. Each gun will fire at the nearest unit that is in line of sight. So the Tyrannosaurus can fire all 5 guns and likely target more than one unit in the shooting phase. If in doubt as to what each gun can fire at, treat them as a whole-mounted weapon. Wow.
So you're telling me that vehicles and monstrous creatures are more similar than we've ever thought before?
Holy, treat them as a whole mounted weapon on a vehicle. A wound model, a monstrous creature who has 5 guns, doesn't point the barrels all together, doesn't feed the shot. I can come up with a billion different reasons why it would just shoot all the shots at one. Now you're telling me this guy drops down and shoots? Wow. Okay.
Like a tank. He's a tank.
I mean, so does the Tyrannosaurus use up slots in the Force organization? Does this mean you can purchase unlimited Tyrannosaurus, blah, blah, blah? And, of course, the answer is yes. So a Tyrannosaurus can carry a single unit. Does that include units with attached independent characters? The answer is yes. So that's kind of cool. Can I directly drop a mucilid spore cluster onto a unit and have it explode following the rules of the spore mine cluster? No. You cannot use deep strike onto an enemy unit, as you can't put the model on top of the opponent's model. Mucilid spore clusters follow the normal rules for deep striking. Wow.
That's kind of huge. That's a huge no.
That is a massive no. That's actually how people have been playing them.
That's what makes them good. That's
what made them good. Now granted, I am shocked right now, but I want you guys to know I'm not that shocked because I'm getting a 15-point HQ or troop choice. Whatever. Yeah, but this is that's kind of crazy to me right now. That is a no, but
that a living weapon would follow exactly the same rules for deep strike is kind of
deep strike mishaps. Yep, that actually blows up when it touches something. But that's actually
its only job in life is to blow up when it touches something.
So now when it blows up being fired from a weapon or being dropped in from space, it doesn't count. It actually has to be on there and then move on to something. It doesn't make sense. Also, just to get through a laugh to me is the same reason why a Biovore doesn't ignore cover when the spore mines blow up, right? But if the spore mine misses the unit and creates D3, those D3 spore mines, when they blow up, they ignore cover. Hold the fucking phone. Wait a second.
I feel like that's a double standard.
I feel like the spore mine, when it's shot out of the Biovore, should ignore cover. When it's on a spore mine itself floating around the field, I feel like at that point in time, it lost its surprise. So, I don't know. All right, so when using a living bomb artillery node organic bombardment rule to reroll the scatter on a barrage from the Biovore brood, does the reroll apply to just the directionary dice or for both that and the distance? What about
GW's already come out and said that it's all one, right? In previous FAQs?
Yeah, that's what it said previous. What about the subsequent barrage hits after the first from the unit with one or more Bivors in? This is a huge question because this will set also precedences that have already been going on because we know that GW can FAQ and FAQ. But the rules, the reroll applies to both the scatter and the distance.
Which is huge.
Yep, which is huge. Following the rules for the normal reroll blast templates, the subsequent barrage shots are determined using just the scatter dice. You can reroll this for each subsequent shot. So this literally follows the exact same that the Wyvern was rerolled, that it was FAQ'd, so that's cool.
Yep.
Can the Manufactorum Gene Stealer formation cannot add the extra Gene Stealers, but can you add Broodlords? No. That'd be kind of cool.
Solid no.
Yes, solid no. Here we go. Back to back. Do Broodlords gain psychic focus and have access to powers from the Hive Mind Primaris power? Of course, yes. If a Hive Tyrant inside a unit of Tyrant Guard, can he leave?
If he starts the game inside, can he leave?
Yes, and it actually says you can.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I was rereading it. Yeah, it actually says you can. That is actually a first, so that's pretty cool. When a unit contains a Psyker, does it, excuse me, mouse, please work, does it count as a Psyker unit for all rules purposes? For example, does Shadow in the Warp cause all models to be suffered at -3? Damn. Now, do you know how cool that would have been if they would have said yes to that? No, it just is to the unit. You will take, obviously.
So the world's most useless psychic defense still remains.
Still is useless as shit. Yes, I was like, oh, wow, this is actually a really cool question. So, GW, you actually, even though you ruled it as I thought you would, you get a soft golf clap from me right now for actually having this question in there.
At least in there, yeah.
Yeah, this question has substance right now. I want to field a Gene Stealer Cult Force alongside my Nid army. Many of the models of Gene Stealer Cult Force have Infiltrate. How does this work with the Allies of Convenience? They had a chance right here, guys, to say, wait a second. Gene Stealer Cults and Gene Stealers should be Battle Brothers. So
that's the same thing.
Errata, you just put them wherever you want. But in turn, this is the answer we get. Allies of Convenience are ignored for all purposes of setting up infiltrators. So you could, for example, set up within 12 inches of an Allies of Convenience model with infiltrating. Wow. Mm-hmm. So this is actually kind of game-changing. Not only just for NIDS, because this is a precedent that is set across the board.
Yeah,
How many armies are out there that base their 40K play with Allies of Convenience? That in a 12-inch deployment zone or something, they're literally having to shove their Night Titans one way and this and this. Now they're one Warlord trade away. Now there's ways to get infiltrate with inside of codexes. So now I can actually have my models. You don't have to infiltrate forward, guys.
No.
That's why I think this is such a big deal.
You just deploy last anywhere on the table.
Yeah. You literally just deploy last. Like if you want, you can have your models on top of one and, within an inch of each other, and just deal with the consequences later. But for all intents and purposes, your deployment zone just got a lot bigger.
That's strange because I didn't think Allies of Convenience had that restriction. I thought it was the Desperate Allies.
No, that is actually.
You mean Come the Apocalypse?
I thought that Come the Apocalypse had one eye open, but I didn't think there was a 12-inch deployment restriction on Allies of Convenience. That's why I'm confused by this question. I just didn't. I thought that
Did they mistype it?
I thought Allies of Convenience were GG, like good to go, just chilling. They just were not. I think that's the category just below Battle Brothers. I didn't think they had a restriction.
That's good. Robbie B is looking it up right now. And also on the same page, guys, they feel so strongly about this. There's a designer's note tab underneath it. And it says this applies to all Allies of Convenience in Warhammer 40K, not just Gene Stealer Colts and NIDS. So as Robbie B is looking that up, we're going to move along to page 5. Does the poison special rule granted from Toxin Sacs Biomorph allowed the gargoyles blinding venom apply to the blinding venom? And it's no. Which would be really cool. It should. It did.
That would have been a solid yes, GW.
Yes, you had a chance right there. Like, you've got formations. People will be going out, rebuying more gargoyles right now. How does acid blood work? Robbie B, you got it?
Scroll back to that.
Yes, sir.
For instance, Set up within 12 inches of allies, a convenience model. So there's the only thing in here is that the one eye open rule for desperate allies. At the start of each of your movement phases, each unit within 6 must roll a d6, which we all know that one. But then there's under allies of convenience, I'm not really seeing anything. It just says cannot move within 1 inch of an allies of convenience roll, a model. Okay.
But also under desperate allies, there should be a you can't deploy within 12 inches line.
Maybe that's under deployment. I don't see it in here.
Yeah,
I do remember reading that, but I can't.
I know it's a real rule, but this is what we talked about. The 40K handbook is Dewey Decibel. Like it's not all where you think it is. You have to search for rules.
Right.
It took us 3
it's
weeks.
actually the over here for come the apocalypse. This is crazy because come the apocalypse, there's the verbiage of referencing 12 inches cannot be deployed within 12 inches.
See, this is kind of what I thought. I thought allies of convenience were fine, good to go. I'm a little confused. Unless you find another wording, I don't think you will, since you just found that wording under come the apocalypse. I don't think that FAQ question is worded right.
No, I don't think so either.
It literally doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all. Wow. We need some clarification.
Designer's note. We need a designer. We need an adult.
We actually need a manager. Please come step forward. Wow, what a
I wonder if people have brought that up on their Facebook page yet.
What an epic mishap there. So this is a really cool one. I think this is probably the one that takes the cake here. If a Termagant is taken as a troop choice, or spawn Termagants, objective secured.
Well, that's kind of overarching because they didn't even say in a CAD. Did they say in a CAD?
No, it just says period.
So currently, that means if you take it as a troop choice, no matter what, like if there's a formation that doesn't have objective secure command benefit, where those are available as troop choices, I don't know if there is one.
Oh, okay. So I take that back. I apologize. It's in the answer. Yeah. So, but this is actually even more interesting. The second part of the question says, do they have objective secured if they were spawned by Termagant, in which was an HQ choice? Now, I want to say this. I played a lot of Termagants. I willingly said my Termagants were created as HQs weren't objective secured because the Termagant himself was not. But so because I used to take 1 or 2 as an HQ and then 2 or 3 as troop choices. But their answer is yes to both questions. Yes, they count as objective secured. And yes, they count as objective secured as an HQ.
Wow.
So you're telling me, wait a second, guys. This is huge. All you NID players are excited about this just like I am. You're telling me that you can take this as an HQ, create objective secured units, and still cheap out by getting the 15-point troop choices in the Mucilid spores? Wow. So your army gets objective secured for a 30-point Mucilid spore tax.
No, I love that because it is a free yes, because like currently rules is written you can't argue that they're objective secure because we've all come
down on the game.
Yeah, we've all come to the understanding that a detachment has command benefits, and anything that comes not along with that detachment with that command benefit doesn't benefit from the command benefit. We have accepted this as a community with a lot of debate. Rules is written, and it is fresh as hell to see them come in and say, "Accept here."
So I do want to say that there's a caveat here, Kenny. As long as the Termagant is taken as a detachment that confers the objective secured command benefit.
Yep.
So that's what you're going to do.
Yep. No, that's clutch because they had an opportunity multiple times with summoning and stuff with the psychic power one to address that. They didn't. Demons don't appear to be objective secure when they're conjured. And they had that opportunity to FAQ that. So they're basically on the trend of saying these guys, however, do make objective secure units.
Right.
So can a unit of spore mines run in charge in the turn in which they were placed from the Biovore's spore burst rule? It says yes. That is also something I played and which is really cool. Some people like to contest that, but ultimately, thank you for this yes. So we've got 2 quality yeses back to back.
I feel like this is starting to become a quality FAQ, right?
Yep.
Not like the best, but
not like the best, but we're getting some substance out of it, right? Also, let's go with another. Let's go 3 for 3 here. Can Molochs arrive from Deep Strike via reserve, terror from the deep onto units in combat? It says yes.
Oh,
over
yeah.
their faces.
Are you kidding me right now? Like, this is solid. There's been some rules debate. Our boy Sean Naden actually whooped a lot of ass with Lichter Shame. And this, for anybody who kind of was like, nah, I can't do that, this literally just says, period, it can be done.
Yeah, that was his tactic. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a huge yes. Man, 3 yeses.
Yep. I mean, that is really solid. So can a Lookout Sir roll be made against wounds inflicted by Moloch's terror from the deep? Can this ability be used on invisible units? Lookout Sirs can be taken, which, to be honest, man, you can Lookout Sir a stomp, a D attack, anything. So
anything,
why would you not think that you could this?
You can look out, sir, a laser beam.
Yes,
laser
from
a
space.
laser beam. Obviously, you can say, sir, the floor is erupting. I think there's a giant bug trying to get in here. Please get
Dodge over here.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there isn't yes in this, but they're giving us the confirmation. This is 4 back-to-back, and this ability can be used against invisible units.
Oof.
5 back-to-back.
Right? So, I mean, that is a solid. Now, a lot of people were playing that, in my opinion. A lot of people were playing the invisible, that Molochs can hit invisible units. But, again, thank you for the clarification. They could have just not put that question in there.
Yep.
So, again, it's not groundbreaking, but thank you. What happens when a spore mine scatters on top of an enemy unit when arriving via deep strike? Do they explode or suffer a deep strike mishap? They suffer a deep strike mishap as normal. That is, again, a shock to me, guys, that
Wow.
they literally – and I don't know if – what is the point of downing on these spore mines? Like, you literally created formations for these
like
spore
living
mines.
artillery, literally called living artillery.
Yeah.
Artillery is meant to be shot on things.
The only existence in life is to touch an enemy and blow up. Why
But
the-
instead of having – and it's not like they have to activate. They're always like, this is what they're – it's not like –
I'm
they're
always angry.
genetically grown
Yes.
to do this task.
Yeah, what was it? The submarine movie was like, oh, well, the missile doesn't arm unless within 2,000 feet. Like, get within the 2,000 feet, and it's just a rock. Like, no, like that's not the concept we have here. This model was one thing. Hive mind is active. Touch some other material and then blow up. So it's kind of they blew the ball on that. But ultimately, if all I'm pissing about and moaning about is spore mines from this FAQ, I'm pretty happy. Again, nothing groundbreaking, nothing obnoxiously over the top. The reason why we're in the B's is because of the Turbogon FAQ, and they followed the rest of that stuff up with just positive yeses to affirm kind of what we've been doing anyway. But you kind of gave us the green light. I feel a little better. GW, I'm actually going to move you to a B+ on this.
B+, nice.
Well, guys, let's take a quick commercial break and come back in and talk about the presidential election this year.
Dear veterans, quickly, make your way to thelongwar.net and find out how to reap your hard-earned spoils of this long war. For our allies at secretweaponsminiatures.com have rewarded us all with an extra 10% discount on all Secret Weapon Miniatures merchandise. So stock up, dear veterans, and enjoy.
And we're back. Rob, who are you voting for president?
Matt Ward, duh.
Matt Ward gets my vote.
For life. No, actually, I think Matt Ward's got a bad rap. Like, he was there for 12 years.
A lot of presidential candidates have bad reps these days.
Wow. Too soon.
And
Too
you
soon,
want to
bro.
know what? It's like we didn't even plan that, but wow,
know.
it came together.
Yeah, it's like it's just like a joke that keeps on. It's like the joke tree. Just keeps on giving, dude. No, I mean, he did some serious work. He was there for like 12 years. He wrote a lot of books. Like, you go to his website, I mean, he's got a lot of credentials behind him. And I feel like, people have problems with some of his like canon and his fluff. I personally liked the 5th edition Grey Knight fluff, the background and the feel to the book, all that stuff. But I can see people's argument too about, if he didn't like your army, maybe he didn't give him the love. But I mean, that's just a passion thing. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, we don't know. Like, hey, Matt, write this book in a week.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. And then did they change stuff? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, everybody hates the Patriots because Tom Brady isn't on their team. Everybody hates Tom Brady, but I swear to God, if they had Tom Brady on their team, they'd be a fan, right? So, like, all the Matt Ward haters out there are just mad because he didn't write their book. Like, the dude is a pimp. You know, like, that's just period. The dude is a baller. We actually talked about this on the webcast tonight, and one of the veterans chimed in, was like, well, he did kind of fuck up the orcs and goblins in 8th edition fantasy. And like, I was really kind of heavy into fantasy in 7th and 8th, and I couldn't remember. And now I think he did clarify, and we kind of thought it was more the edition. But like, in my opinion, I don't think he can take the fall for that. I think the 8th edition fantasy is going to take the fall.
Did he
for
write
that.
8th edition fantasy rules?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, he can only do what he can, you know, and if something doesn't work, it doesn't get translated over, we don't know in what kind of capacity Matt's around for, but hopefully he's here to stay. And now I would like to get your guys' thoughts on, isn't this just another show of force of how the new 40K, the new CEO of GW, is actually maybe working towards the better?
I think he's out there getting talent. I mean, you have a talent. You have I can only imagine that you have a finite talent pool for writers and game developers out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of people have left Workshop. Let's be honest. For various reasons at various times throughout the past, say, 15 years, and they all, for the most part, kind of have a home at a different company doing a different thing. You know, some of them might be better.
Kickstarter and did their home games. Yeah. They let some talent out the door.
They did. I mean, from artists like one of my personal favorites, Mark Gibbons, working with Blizzard now. You know, you got people like Graham McNeil also working for Blizzard now. You know, like Rick Priestley doing his own thing. You got Andy Chambers doing his own thing. Like, you got a lot of folks out there that went into Ronnie went over to Mantic, you got Bo went over to Army Painter, like a lot of folks that weren't games developers are doing a lot of other things out there. So I got to imagine that the talent pool is finite. And unless you're bringing dudes up, which I can only imagine that the internet is a great tool for locating and finding new talent to bring on board to make your company better as well. But at that point, you're telecommuting things, and I'm not sure how all that works. But
I have a question. In that Ward's Day, in like the 5th edition era, was this guy tasked with writing a whole codex, fluffing rules?
In a lot of instances, I believe that was the case.
And I just don't
say for sure.
And you can't talk shit about some of those codexes he wrote in 5th edition. They were all power codexes. But the thing is, it's like, I don't think that's the case these days. They put so much stock into the novels that we have such established lore and everything. I mean, they finally delegated the tasks in an appropriate way, I believe. If he's back here writing rules or writing dexes, I don't think that anyone can blame. I mean, I don't think any of his past, like, keeping it loose with lore problems are going to even rear their head. I think he's just going to write sick rules.
Yeah, let's be honest. A lot of people, the first thing they say, there's a lot of misnomers out there, or misinformation. Like, a lot of people are going to point to the canon thing, which I suppose is a valid point. But when you look at the rules, people say, "Oh, WTF," 5th edition, 6th edition. Okay, sure. I think 5th edition was good. We can all agree. 6th edition had some problems, but they were few in number, but they were very specific, and those very specific problems and mechanics caused bigger issues, which cascaded quickly out of control. However, we don't know what control he had over the finished product. Now, a lot of people would be like, "Yo, demons were effed up in 40K," but again, you have a situation where part of that was on the White Dwarf staff. I feel like, because remember, they put out the White Dwarf demon update, remember?
Right. So you can't blame my Ward. That was obviously a bunch of bullshit to get everybody to buy a bunch of models that were not tight. Then they became tight, and they became not tight again. He doesn't. The guy. His 5th edition was the beginning of the 40K tournament glory, like in the New World Order. You know what I mean? Like, all this amazing independent GT stuff that's happened in the last, decade has been because of 5th edition in a lot of ways. It was the most played tournament edition. And then you can't pin any of the follies of it like on one guy when it's a big company with a big guy sitting at the top, especially 10 years ago. It's
not considering anybody's books aren't valid anymore when the terribleness of 6th edition dropped.
Yeah. And even the continued finally we're in 7th edition for how long now, and now we're finally getting some love and some attention. I mean, this guy hasn't been with the company for a while. It's not like the company just instantaneously got better rules and better lore. They've been working on a novel series for years, and then we've had some of the most imbalancing issues in the history of the game in the last few years.
Yeah, and I don't know if you agree, but I feel like there is a strong coincidence that FAQs are coming out for the first time in years, and this is the first time Matt Ward is coming back. I also think it's crazy that, Age of Sigmar was on a low, and they turned around and changed it. Somebody brought up Lord of the Rings. What a fail of a game that was, but Matt Ward had his hands in the beginning, right?
Well, he did the War of the Rings. He did
yes.
the larger scale battle, and that was a great system.
Yeah, that was amazing. Now, did he actually write that Demon Codex back in 5th?
So I believe his credits are the 2nd edition Demon Codex, which I believe would be the 5th edition one, because they only had 2 books. One came out in 2007, and then
and that was for all of 4th edition, because 4th edition lasted a solid 3 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Let's see, 4th came out in fall of 2004, and 5th came out in fall of 2008.
Yeah, so 4 years, absolutely, yeah. And that was an amazing rule set, but Demons lasted that long. I was playing Demons all of 2004 as well.
So it's
all 4th edition.
It's pretty hard. You're right. These coincidences are very strong, evidence that this guy isn't back to write some novels. This guy isn't back to write some stories. They're putting out FAQs now. They're talking about being at LVO and having a presence at LVO. They put out the General's Handbook to make Age of Sigmar more playable. They didn't bring this guy back for any other reason, in my opinion, but to make 40K more playable.
Yeah. Hey, now this is obviously all speculatory. How crazy would it be if they bring Matt Ward back to be the emissary between them and the 40K community leaders to show up at events, to be involved, to be on podcasts, whatever? Because I would have to say, whether it be controversy, anything else, any publicity is good publicity. In my opinion, when I think 40K, when I think this, I honestly think of Matt Ward. Matt Ward is the number one name that comes to my mind. Now, there are others, but nothing like him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he definitely has
open invitation to Matt Ward to be on our podcast.
There you go.
That would be amazing.
That would be awesome. So either way, I think that I think it's all positive. I think that this isn't like cheating, going back to the ex-girlfriend, anything else. This is positive for the game. Be excited, Chaos Space Marine players, because allegedly, Chaos Space Marines are going to be getting the reboot here soon. For anybody who's doing their own stipulations in their Beats lab, get your excited panties on, because if Matt Ward touches it, I think it's going to be fire.
Asterix. Chaos probably aren't getting anything new.
Well,
sorry.
Oh my God! I just gotta keep my head down and just keep pretending it's never gonna change, because I've already done the whole get my hopes up thing. It's like it's like when you are talking. It's been so long since you left. The pain was so much. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can let you back in my life.
Nope.
You and me should get an apartment together.
Tomorrow.
I don't. But. He's back. Or the rumors are circulating at least, but
in some capacity.
Back in some capacity.
Yeah, and that's all we can hope for. Hopefully, moving forward, we still keep seeing stuff like this. Like GW, don't slow down.
Nope.
I feel like I remember, was it 2 years ago, guys, when we were like, man, we've had no new 40K, and they're like, oh, word? Well, I'm gonna give it to you.
Yep.
You know, you better hope you're sitting down for this load. You know, and they gave us like information after information after information.
So much stuff.
They've proven now, I guess, that they can go full bore. Hopefully, they go full bore with, you know, keep getting the community involved.
Mm-hmm.
Keep putting out these FAQs. Keep getting. I hope that somewhere somebody in a closet with minimal light and probably no paycheck is at least recording some of this information that they're getting from the FAQs and what should be, what shouldn't be.
Yeah, I really hope it's not just one guy who is on their Facebook page.
Or a team of cats.
Yeah.
It could be a team of cats.
So,
a team of cats would do a great job. I mean, I have empirical evidence to prove that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I would also, but, you know, we can still keep talking about Mad War, but, you know, I want to shout out to all the people that tuned into the webcast tonight. Mm-hmm. We had a epic large crowd tonight. Hopefully, hopefully that keeps up. We always like to shout out names, talk to people, get as much as we can. So again, please make sure you check us out next Wednesday as well for anybody who, you know, is just chiming in this week for the first time and also hearing the podcast. Don't be a stranger. Make sure you come back.
And I guess while we're shouting out, don't forget, next week we are going to interview Emma, whom you may have seen on Warhammer TV on Facebook doing some tutorials for G-Dubs. She's streaming now on Twitch, part of a stream team called Brush Lickers United. You can find them on Facebook, and you can also find them on Twitch. You're definitely going to want to tune in next week to hear that clutch interview.
Yeah, that's such a good visual when you say brush lickers, because we all know you put it in your mouth.
Yeah, I put it in my mouth.
Church. Also, guys, we apologize in advance, but life does get in the way. But Long War Kickstarter round 2 is out the door.
Mini starter.
I'm sorry.
The Long War, what is it? The Epic Bag of Holding.
Epic double, triple bag of holding. Yes.
Yep.
The packages have been assembled, and they are ready for the post officer to pick them
Postal
up.
person.
Yes.
The post officer. I like that.
Post officer.
So, again, we haven't talked about them. We were trying to give updates, but thank you for everybody who joined in and was able to bang that down and be involved with us. And we are hoping that you are super happy with your product because it is pretty badass.
All right, Mike Haspel, you want to take us out?
Oh, wait a minute. I'll do my best, Mike Haspel. Make sure you head on over to thelongwar.net. That's the home of the battle reports for exclusive content, early access videos, and more. Become a veteran of the Long War today.
If you like these battle reports, check out thelongwar.net. Become a member of the Hall of Veterans today for the fastest growing library of wargame related video content, modeling, painting, and playing. Not to mention all the sick discounts I receive from some of our sponsors. TheLongwar.net is committed to bringing hobby back, and we can't do it without you.